This is me running 5:20 in the mile, and this is me running 4:52 in the mile. Now, that's a big difference in time, but there's also a big difference in what I did leading up to both of those races. And in today's video, we'll be going over the 5 most important key factors that help me improve my time by that big of a margin. First up, this is a big one, we've got mileage. Now, by mileage, I mean the amount of miles you are running each week, and one of the most important things about mileage is making sure you don't do too much too soon. Now, if you're new to running, you want most of your mileage to come from easy runs. These are obviously miles run at an easy pace, because overall, going too hard more than 3 times a week is definitely going to get you injured. And as someone who's training primarily for the mile this track season, I've been running at around 20 miles a week at least, but I do plan on bumping that up once track season actually starts. Now, for me to consistently run 20 miles a week, I'm running long runs on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and my workouts on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, etc. But like I said, you want to easily build up to this amount of mileage per week. You don't just want to go right into 20-mile weeks without any prior training. So the most important thing to remember is to schedule your training accordingly to what you do each week to ensure the most success and results. Second topic on our list is pacing and strategy. Now listen, you're not going to run a fast mile if you can't pace yourself well. Now, when I ran 4:52 in the mile, I went out in 1:11.5, which was even a bit too fast for my goal of sub 4:50. And I personally believe if I went out in a time of, let's say, 1:12 or 1:13, I may have been able to dip under. Now, going under 4:50 would only be a 3-second difference, but when you think about it, that's a lot of time. And that time difference can be a lot more for runners who are going at about like for a 6-minute mile or even slower. So with that being said, you don't want to get out too slow in a mile. You want to make sure you get out at a good steady pace, but make sure you do not burn yourself out too fast at the start. Because after that first lap, it's going to really start to hurt in those middle two, and you want to make sure you have enough energy leading into the final 400. So let's say I was going for sub 6 in the mile. If you're racing the 1600 meters, to run sub 6, you need to run exactly 1:30 on the dot and then try to dip under in the last lap. But personally, I would say aim for a 1:28 to 1:29 in the first lap, because your body will naturally fatigue leading into those second and third laps. And even though if you're running at the same intensity as the first, it's likely going to be even slower. And for laps 2 and 3, just try to maintain the steady pace you've been aiming for if you've been hitting the right splits. If your training has been sufficient for the mile, that is something you should be able to do. And for that final 400, all I have to say is just go for it. There's nothing really to it about pacing. I kind of just sprint the whole thing itself. And you really want to start accelerating with 200 meters left, because some people only do it with 100, and that really wastes the potential of what they could have been running. Because remember, you don't want to be scared of the pain, because you're going to regret it in the future when you could have been running faster times. Because even though running like all out with 200 meters left, it's going to hurt a lot more, but you're going to feel a lot more rewarded once you run a faster time because of it. All right, next up we have workouts, probably my favorite topic. I love talking about these. Now, as a 2-miler during cross country, my favorite workout was 6x800s, because doing 6 800s, that's the equivalent of about 3 miles. And what that does, if you're running 3 miles at your goal 2-mile pace, running 2 miles at that pace without any rest is going to seem a lot easier. And for running a mile, which is exactly half of 2 miles, I don't even know why I have to say that, running a workout like 6x400s is an equivalent to that workout. Now, this is probably the best workout I can give once you're in your mid to late season 6x400, or even 6 to 8 or 10 if you're really in shape, ran at your goal mile pace. A workout like this is known as an interval workout on the track, and these are definitely the most effective workout in my opinion. I mean, this is the stuff Roger Bannister did to run under 4 minutes in the mile for the first time in human history. Now, let's say you're in the early stages of your track or indoor track season. You want to be running maybe like with 2 minutes of rest, which may seem like a lot, but you eventually want to lower that by a lot of time once you're getting more fit. Now, the same applies to the amount of reps you're doing per workout. I'd say start out with maybe 6 and 2 minutes of rest if you're like really early in your season. But near the end of your season and when you're really in shape, you want to be running like 10 with maybe a minute or less of rest. Now, like I said about mileage, I was running maybe on Thursdays, Tuesdays, Saturdays. You're going to want to incorporate this type of workout on like a Monday, Friday, or Wednesday. Now, if you're really early in your season, the workout I'd rather have you do is 200-meter repeats. Now, this is another workout I love, and you can tell if you've been watching my training series. Because if you think about it, 4 laps isn't the longest distance, and that's going to require some speed if you want to really run a fast time. And that is the purpose of 200-meter repeats. I mean, for me, as a 450 miler, I run these at 30 seconds now that I've gotten a bit more fit. But I'm running 10 reps of these with active rest, so you want to make sure you find a good pace that you can run at for 10 reps at least. And you have to remember that these workouts are meant to hurt, and these are going to make the pain during the mile a lot less. One thing I will add on is to make sure that you stretch, foam roll, and all those recovery tactics. You want to make sure you implement those into your daily routine, because trust me, getting injured is one of the worst things that can happen to a runner. And our next topic, which is relatively related to what I just said, is proper warm-up and cool-down. Properly warming up before a race is one of the most important things they can do to ensure that you do well. For this, you'd want to be doing certain drills that your coach has you do, or even some that you've learned yourself to get your body warmed up for the race. Also, make sure to do like a 15-minute warm-up jog, because you do not want to shock your body once you start the race. That's going to really affect how you run. This can also relieve tight muscles and will overall prevent injury along with that. But cooldown is just like what I said earlier, stretching, foam rolling, all those things, because this will really prevent injury. And lastly, we have gear. Now, last year I had a friend who almost pulled up to a cross-country meet in Lightning McQueen Crocs. That's something you don't want to do. There are certain shoes and spikes that are accustomed to certain distances and certain terrains, but here are the top 5 that I'll give you. For track races, I would say the Nike Victories or the Nike Dragonflies. Last season I used the Dragonflies. I think this season I'll be using the Victories though. They're very aggressive spikes that will suit the distance, especially the mile. Now, you also may have been seeing shoes like the Alpha Flies, Vapor Flies. Those, I would say, help, but if you're running on the road, that's when I would use them. But if you're really on the track, get spikes. Because you gotta remember, those super shoes were built for the road, and they're gonna be most effective on that terrain. Just like shoes, getting a proper watch is just as important in my opinion. This will help you track your heart rate, your resting heart rate, your VO2 max, you name it. And just like that, we are already finished. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to follow me on Strava, Instagram. Why was I about to say you name it? But don't forget to do that. And here is my carefully crafted outro that I've been waiting to show you guys for so long.